We do have plenty of top quality racing before we get to March, though, however, and that is showing this weekend, where after a quiet week in the National Hunt Game this week, post-New Year, we're back at it at Sandown and Naas at the weekend. So starting with the Tolworth hurdle, novices hurdle here, Andy, the race won by Constitution Hill last year. We currently have 11 entered, most looking likely to stand their ground at this stage as well. So what are your impressions of the race?
Yeah, I think the market's got it about right here. Out of the front three in the market, the least one I fancied is Tolworth, just based on the numbers and the horses it's beaten. Hasn't done a figure yet that sort of warrants it to be thought of in grade one level at the moment, whereas I think the other two genuinely are, particularly Lucia. Obviously, she won a listed race at Sandown last season, proving herself that she can handle the Isha track, which I think is very, very important. You know, it always takes plenty of getting. The fact she managed to win that race on soft ground, I think is a real feather in her cap. She's proven herself on a quicker ground, of course, when she won at Newbury. I think the striking thing about that performance at the Berkshire track was how well she jumped on her first experience over hurdle. She was very slick, very fast. The time figure was very good. She's the quickest three that we've got on the numbers as well coming into this race at the weekend. So you combine that with the fact that it's going to be soft ground, it's at Sandown, the track she's proven on. I think 6 to 4 is about the right price. I think Authorised Speed, he's the right second favourite. I think that's the biggest danger. He's looked really good in his two performances so far. The softer the ground, the better for him. He's just taken a little bit of a while to settle down, that horse. He's been a little bit headstrong before. I think that cost him, didn't it, last year in that bumper that he ran in at Newbury. He was just a little bit too free for his own good, but he seems to have relaxed a little bit, and he's growing a little bit between now and then. So yeah, I think that's about the way I'd play it. I'd be Lucia. I think that's a strong 6 to 4 favourite. Authorised Speed is the obvious one, but I'd probably be against Tolworth.
Oh, cool. So taking it, yeah, Tolworth is 7 to 2 then in that for that combination of Harry Cobden and Paul Nicholls, but more in the Lucia camp though. Market's probably got it right according to Andy. James, are you of a similar impression?
I'm of exactly the same opinion as Andy here. I think Lucia is a really strong 6 to 4 favourite here. And if you actually looked when William Hill brought the price out for this race, Tolworth and Authorised Speed were joint at 7 to 2. I think now the market correction's got it absolutely bang on around Authorised Speed 5 to 2, 9 to 4, second favourite, standalone. I think the big danger to Lucia is Authorised Speed. The only reason why I am going to go with Lucia in this race and think she is the better horse. Obviously, she's going to get a little bit of an allowance, but if you look at Authorised Speed, the way he jumped last time and just making that little error at the end, that's all you need in a race like this in a grade one. And I know the grade one Tolworth hasn't been the best grade one throughout the season, has it? But even though it has seen some lovely winners, if you look, York Hill, remember, was a nice winner of this race. Fiddler on the Roof turned out to be a lovely horse that won this race, and obviously Constitution Hill last year. But if you actually look at some of the horses that have been in behind, I don't think there's probably been as good as what we've got in this year's renewal. I think the problem we have with Tolworth is, even though he won on soft ground last time out, he wants top of the ground more than he wants soft ground, whereas Lucia and Authorised Speed are absolutely proven on soft ground, especially round Sandown, with both of them winning there. If you look at Lucia's bumper form when she went on to win round Sandown in that heavy soft ground, it was a superb performance. She won last time on goodish ground, didn't she? Showed she could be slightly versatile, but she just wants to get her who's into the mud. And I think at 6 to 4, I think she could be quite a strong bet, really. Other ones, obviously, just to mention, if Henry de Bromhead does send Arctic Brazil here, that'll be fascinating. That will absolutely fascinating, because what this horse did last time out at Cork really put up a really nice performance. He's currently 5 to 1, 6 to 1 in the market. I'm not sure whether he turns up here. I'm really not sure. That's the problem we've got here. We haven't really seen loads of Irish come over this race over the years, have we? But if Arctic Brazil was to come and run in this race, it would set down a massive precedent to see where he lies against some of these horses going forward towards the Cheltenham Festival. So he's fascinating around 5, 6 to 1. Others, just to mention, that have similar form lines. If you look at some of the bumper form with Lucia, it's Blow Your Wad, Lastro Boy. They have got similar form lines with each other, with Lastro Boy beating Blow Your Wad, and then Lucia beating Blow Your Wad as well in bumpers. You can see why they're bigger at 14, 16 to 1, and would take a real big improvement for them to get involved. But like Andy said, I'd probably be against Tolworth with the ground going so soft. I think Lucia is the one to be on at 6 to 4, but Authorised Speed at 5 to 2 is a danger.
Does everyone from the Midlands just agree with each other or on the same wavelength? Because this is uncanny.
We're a very friendly bunch up here, Kate.
Very friendly bunch, all along the same thought lines as well. And to be fair, it served the pair of you well. So maybe we should all be tapping into that Bromley water at some point. But yeah, also on the Sandown card, though, we do have the listed mares hurdle over 2 mile 4. So we talk about the top mare, then go for the Tolworth, where we have it over the extra half a mile here. Only 6 entries, though. So James, throwing this one back to you, please. What do you make of the race?
Yeah, I think this is quite simple. If she turns up, isn't it, Love Envoy? She should be an easy winner going forward in this race. Like, she's potentially not going to take on many horses here. Obviously, Nick put her up for the mare's hurdle on the last show and thinks very highly of her. I'm also a big fan of her as well. I think she's only going to contract for the mare's hurdle market off the back of this. So if you want to play her, I'd play her before the mare's hurdle, before this race, because it doesn't look like the greatest renewal in the world, does it? She's currently 10-1 for the mare's hurdle. Non-runner money back with William Hill. Like I said, she's only going to be shorter. She is a horse I'd like to keep an eye on for the season, because she just always runs a race, and going up from 2 mile to 2 mile 4 is only going to bring improvement from this horse. She was superb off her mark last time. I think 139 in handicap hurdle, taking on the boys. Going back, taking on the girls. I think probably the only danger might be Martello Sky, but I think she's a much better horse than Martello Sky can be. So for me, it's very simple with this. If she turns up, Levenboy wins, and I think she'll be quite a short price.
Yep, and like I say, probably will be cutting then for the mare's hurdle on the back of this. So if you think she's going to dot up in this and then go to Cheltenham and run well there, you may as well back her prior to that race now. Andy, your opinions, please.
Yeah, James has already summed it up really. Like I say, there's not a lot to add. I mean, I think she'll be 3-1 on, Kate, to be honest, maybe 4-1 on. You know, the form of her Sandown victory's already started to play out really well. Playful Saint, who was one over the Christmas period. I think even Naas, who was 6-1 yesterday at Musselburgh. So it was a very strong Sandown race. The time was good. She carried 11:10, which is obviously a good performance for a mare in the first run of the season. You know, she's a good, genuine Grade 1 mare, and you know, she's in a listed race. So, like I say, the opposition is probably going to be scared off. There'll probably be only two or three runners. 1 or 2 might just run in there for prize money. I mean, I think that prize money is all the way down to 5th or 6th. So we might even get a full field of the entries that we've got, just because there is money all the way down to the 6th place. But yeah, this should be an absolute formality.
Yeah, that's basically what they're playing for then. Yeah, it's just to place money in behind Love Envoy. So yeah, for lads, funnily enough, then in a group. But to be fair, agreeing about a horse that probably is going to go off at 1-3 is fair enough, to be honest.
Hard to come up with a different strategy in that race.
No, exactly.
I'm afraid, yeah.
No, only 6 entries even at this stage. Who's actually going to turn up, and nothing's going to beat her, provided that Love Envoy is there. So yeah, I mean, we will have more telling points to take out of that further down the line, but for now, just enjoy her, hopefully. And on Sunday, we have the Grade 1 at Lawlor's of Naas, funnily enough, Naas. And this is over 2 mile 4, so half a mile further than the Tolworth. And again, loads entered for this Grade 1. So Andy, plenty of smart novices likely to line up here. Of course, we talked about the Ballymore and potential implications then from this race. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, lots of multiple entries here. No doubt the likes of Willie Mullins, Henry de Bromwich, Gordon Elliott will wait to the last minute and see which works well, etc., before finally making a decision of where they go. But look, I'd imagine that In the Pocket will go. I can't believe that Henry de Bromwich will run anywhere else. Yeah. It's perfect timing, really. It's 20-odd days after he last ran. He's already proven around the track. Either that or they wait for the Dublin Racing Festival, but I think this is looked the natural progression for him. So if he runs, and you'd probably think that the other two JP representatives in a net and I like the way you're thinking, probably won't go. And then you look at a Gaelic Warrior probably being the main representative for Willie Mullins. He's got several others in there that could easily throw their cap into the ring. I think the ground's very important for Champ Keeley. He was a bit disappointing in the Royal Bond when the ground went against him. I think he probably wants to actually drop him back in trip, funny enough. I don't really see him as a 2.5 mile horse. 3 Card Brag's an interesting runner. He reminds me of 3 Stripe Life. I think he's probably one of those ones that will always end up finishing 2nd and 3rd in a Grade 1. I'm not sure whether he's absolutely at the very, very top level. But I think he will pop up at some stage at this season when the emphasis is on stamina. So if it was a real test, like a slog at Naas on Sunday, and he does run, I think he's worth considering from an each way perspective, because he does have a good attitude, that 3 Card Brag, and he was coming back at In the Pocket the last day. So like I say, it's all about prices, really. It's hard to have an opinion on this race really without knowing what's running or what prices we're dealing with.
Yeah.
Like if in the pocket is like 3-4 to 1, you say, well, he's a bet, but he might be like 5 to 4. So, and 3-card bag might be 6-7 to 1, and he's the each way bet. So, like I say, it's very to have a dogmatic view at the moment. But I think that race last time out, the one that in the pocket won, is definitely the key angle or key form line coming into this race on Sunday.
Yeah, so just a wait and see prices and to let it dictate you exactly which way you're going to play the race in itself. But that's the form line to focus in on from your perspective. James, your impressions?
Yeah, obviously this race, it gives us big indications on it for the Ballymore and sometimes even the Albert Bartlett, because if you look at the last, two of the last three winners of this race have been Emboy Allen, Bob Ollinger, both gone on to win the Ballymore. And then you look at last year's winner, Ginto, went into the Albert Bartlett and looked to have a massive chance before getting fatally injured. So it's a race that you really want to watch and pick out either winners, second or third, to go on to the festival, because it's a cracking indication, I think. Obviously, what Andy's touched on there with In the Pocket, the absolute notions and 3-card brag, that race is obviously going to be very key. I think personally, 3-card bag wants 3 miles, wants the Albert Bartlett trip. So even running at 2 mile 4 again, I can't see him winning this race. But he's a really admirable horse. So I just think he wants to go up in trip. If you look at him when he jumps the last, he just flies home every single time, but he's always left with too much to do. I think if he's going over a larger trip, he might be able to take longer to get nearer the front and then get closer to winning the race. But I think he's right that he's a horse that will just keep finishing second and third in Grade 1s before he actually finds that race that might fall apart slightly, where he will be the best horse in the race and go and take his race, like 3 Stripe Life did at Aintree, when a lot of horses didn't actually turn up, like Yusser Gerhards that he took on all season, and he found his race and won on win. So I agree with him on that. I think it's interesting to see what Mullins is going to do, because obviously Gaelic Warrior, who's primed for the Ballymore, has to run in this race really. But for me, if I was going to play one, and I know it's at prices and we haven't seen them and we don't know if they're going to turn up, but if he was to turn up, I'm a huge fan of Grange Clare West for Mullins. I personally think he wants to go for the Albert Bartlett. He wants 3 miles, but I can see Willie Mullins running over this trip again. He's very lightly raced. He's a 7-year-old, but he's very lightly raced. Obviously, he's had his issues over the last few seasons, but if you look at what this horse did last time out, it was very, very taking. Like I said, I do think this horse wants 3 miles, but like I said with Ginto, that you can see horses run over this trip and then go up to that Albert Bartlett trip. So his win over 2 mile 4 last time was like he won by 12 lengths. It was very taken. The ground was a bit slushy. He went from 10 to 1. This is before, I think he might have changed in Nigeria, but he went from 10 to 1, from 30 to 33 to 1 for the Ballymore, 16s into 5s. He's the favourite for the Albert Bartlett currently. And like I said, he does want 3 miles, but I think he might run at 2 mile 4 again before going back up in trip. And I think he's very, very interested in this race. It's tough. We don't really know the 5-day decks yet. We're trying to all find out, like us all scrolling down our phones. I agree with Andy on, I think Champ Carly's not 2 mile 4, I think 2 miles. And probably when you see what he ran at Tipperary at the start of the season, Mullins knew that he was nowhere near the best of his novice hurdlers. Don't get me wrong, he's a nice horse, but he's probably one to drop back maybe into a handicap, but not running Grade 1 company, because I don't think he's as good. Dawn Rising's interesting, obviously beating American Mike last time out, but I think if the faller at the last one fell, Affordable Fury, I think that horse would have gone close as well. There's so many different ties in this race of form lines that it's very, very tough at this moment. But if you had to put a gun to my head, Grange Clare West, if he turned up, would be my likely idea of the winner.
Oh, I like it then. So a different angle there. But yeah, Grange Clare West to see exactly what he can show and then what trip he goes over in time. But all these different horses that either want dropping back down in trip, wanting to go up in trip. Then again, we have so much to take out of this race, let alone even the interest within this race as well. And you've made very fair cases for an awful lot of horses.